Korean American Sanctuary Church Network and Korean American Civic Empowerment, a successful first joint civil rights pilgrimage tour. One road begins where the other one ends. From Monday, February 6th through Wednesday, February 8th, 2023, the Korean American Sanctuary Church Network and Korean American Civic Empowerment visited historical sites from the civil rights movement in Montgomery, Selma, and Birmingham, Alabama, and Atlanta, Georgia. As we walked through storied grounds, reflecting upon where the dream of equality was fought for and toward the passing of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, we were reminded again that all of God's children are dignified and equal. Adding to the significance during our time of reflection and travel was the presence of Black History Month all throughout the month of February. This first joint civil rights movement pilgrimage between the two organizations was held over the course of 3 days. In attendance were 21 believers consisting of clergy, pastors, priests, lawyers, civil rights activists, and social workers, all active in their work in New York, New Jersey, Chicago, Philadelphia, Atlanta, and wherever else is home. Over the course of 3 months, the groups gathered together, planning and learning, presenting workshops over Zoom, all while leading up to the day of the pilgrimage. Monday, February 6th, 2003, the groups arrived and met in Atlanta, from which they began their pilgrimage at the Freedom Ride Museum, the Rosa Parks Museum, Dexter Avenue Baptist Church, and its parsonage in Montgomery, Alabama. The Freedom Ride Museum commemorates the efforts of Black and white Americans in 1961 that traveled together on buses from Washington, D.C. to Montgomery, Alabama in protest against segregation policies enforced on buses and bus terminals. Together, their message of equality was made heard. The Rosa Parks Museum commemorates the modest Rosa Parks, known as the mother of the civil rights movement and also famous for refusing to give up her seat on a bus, leading to the Montgomery bus boycott in protest against discriminatory practices and segregated seating against people of color. A young Martin Luther King Jr. would play a pivotal leadership role in the boycotts, leading up to his leadership throughout the civil rights movement. Dexter Avenue Baptist Church, the church where Martin Luther King Jr. first served as pastor in 1954, which later became the center of the civil rights movement. Dr. King's home still bears the marks of bombings and explosions. It is said that while sitting in the kitchen praying, it was in this home that Dr. King heard the voice of God saying, "Stand up for justice and truth." On Tuesday, February 7th, the group visited places of great significance to the civil rights movement in Selma and Birmingham, Alabama. In Selma, the group visited the Jackson Home, the Brown Chapel AME Church, the Edmund Pettus Bridge, and the National Voting Rights Museum. In Birmingham, Alabama, the group visited the Birmingham Civil Rights Institute, the 16th Street Baptist Church, and Kelly Ingram Park. The Jackson Home served as both a residence and a strategic meeting location for civil rights activists such as Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Brown Chapel AME Church served as the starting ground for the Selma to Montgomery March, ultimately leading to the Voting Rights Act of 1965. The marches from Selma to Montgomery were a set of 3 marches in protest of disenfranchisement of African Americans of their right to vote under Jim Crow. These marches were brutally suppressed by white police officers with up to 600 casualties and 1 death. The Birmingham Civil Rights Institute hosts several displays of photographs, videos, documents, and testimonies related to the civil rights movement, providing a comprehensive overview of the movement's history. These exhibits showcase the lives of Black leaders and activists that dedicated their lives to the cause of equality for all people. At the Birmingham Civil Rights Institute, the group was shown a short film about the lives of African Americans from the 1800s to the 1920s in Birmingham, Alabama. Many exhibits and displays preserve the memory of how differently African Americans were treated in contrast to white Americans. Kelly Ingram Park, a site where police and firefighters violently suppressed student protesters in 1963 under the orders of the city's police commissioner, today features memorials and statues commemorating the civil rights movement and the fight for equality. On Wednesday, February 8th, the group visited Sweet Auburn, Southern Christian Leadership Conference headquarters in downtown Atlanta, Ebenezer Baptist Church, the birth home of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., the King Center, and the International Civil Rights Walk of Fame in Atlanta, Georgia. Sweet Auburn played a vital role as the headquarters of the civil rights movement. From 1960 to his assassination, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. served as a co-pastor at Ebenezer Baptist Church. The Southern Christian Leadership Conference served as the headquarters of desegregation campaigns throughout the civil rights movement. The King Center was established in 1968 in honor of Dr. King's memory and honor, and to promote his vision of a just and peaceful society. Inside the King Center displays historically significant pieces such as the Nobel Peace Prize, plaques, and medals, helping us to understand the life of Dr. King and Mrs. Coretta Scott King. Across from the eternal flame and surrounded by the King Center reflecting pool is the final resting spot of Dr. King and Mrs. Coretta Scott King. The International Civil Rights Walk of Fame features footprints of various civil rights leaders and activists. This pilgrimage reminded the group that the rights and privileges enjoyed today in this country was paid for by the sacrifices of those that fought long and hard for equality. We seek to continue this pilgrimage alongside future generations of Korean Americans. Walking upon these storied grounds filled with the history of the civil rights movement, we were led to earnest prayer and contemplation upon our own heritage and story as Korean Americans. As we return home from these historic sites, we now step forward onto a renewed path toward our future. Like those that came before us in the fight for civil rights and equality, we too hope and pray that one day our names and the names of future generations will proudly stand firm beside those of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., Dosan An Chang-ho, and those along the path of the Civil Rights Walk of Fame.